Of this meeting has been provided to the city clerk in accordance with NJSAA 10:4-12, to be posted on the bulletin board in City Hall and on the city's website. I have proof of this notice and evidence, which we can mark as B1. Okay. We'll move to a roll call vote. Commissioner Sandcamp?
Here.
Commissioner Gunther?
Here.
Commissioner Sakong is absent. Commissioner Blazak?
Here.
Commissioner Gucciardo is absent. Commissioner Gordon?
Present.
Commissioner Edgecombe?
Present.
Commissioner Kay?
Here.
Commissioner Callback?
Here.
Vice Chair Cronin?
Present.
And Chair Griega.
Here.
Okay, there are 9 votes, 9 members of the commission in attendance. 5 affirmative votes are needed for a certificate of appropriateness. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from April 13th. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, comments? If not, staff recommends a motion to approve.
Motion. Second. Motion.
And Tony. Okay. Commissioner Gunther?
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak?
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon?
Aye.
Commissioner Edgecombe?
Aye.
Commissioner Kay?
Aye.
Commissioner Sandcamp?
Aye.
Commissioner Callback?
Yay.
Vice Chair Cronin?
Aye.
And Chair Griega.
Aye.
Okay. There are 9 votes in favor, none against. The minutes from April 13th are approved. All copies of correspondence and application materials are linked on tonight's agenda through the case number. We have one announcement this evening. Case 11B, which is 384 Communipaw B-24-0808, has withdrawn their application, so we will not be hearing that this evening. They intend to come back without the demolition aspect of that project, so we do not intend to see that back again. We have no old business on tonight's agenda, which just leads us with new business. Chair, if you'd like to call the first case.
Now calling case H25-0444, applicant Paul Vega, architect, on behalf of Lindsay and Chris Scotto DeVetta. The address 273 8th Street, apartment 1, block and lot 10,006/18. Zone Hamilton Park Historic District for the certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a roof deck, partially visible from the public right-of-way, and renovations at an altered contributing transitional Italianate row house constructed circa 1875 in the Hamilton Park Historic District.
Yes. However, as we call that first case, I neglected for open public comment.
Okay.
In there. So if there are any members of the public who would like to speak, Charlene. Staff will, Paul, I'm just going to ask, I'm sorry. You can keep that there. Charlene, there's a different mic that we use for open public comment. Just in general, there are 5 minutes for open public comment. All questions must be addressed through the chair. We will answer any questions, if there are any, after. And Charlene, we just have to swear you in.
Surely. Yes.
And your full name, spell it, and address.
Charlene Burke, CharleneBurke, 56 Duncan Avenue. Thank you. Firstly, about a year ago, I was here and I spoke about historic signage for our historic districts. So let me just bring you up to date. I did apply to the Jersey City Open Space for the West Bergen Historic District, and we were awarded monies, $100,000, to identify our historic district with street signage. So I'm hoping that this year we will see that, and it will be the first of many of our historic districts. The second thing I would like to say is that I'm also here as the president of the West Side Community Alliance because there is one of the projects on your agenda tonight on Gifford Avenue and Bergen, the old Bergen School that I went to and graduated from when I was in high school long ago. And that was never brought to the community. And I would like to say that whenever these are projects, particularly of this nature, where there's a insertion or a subdivision, it really should be brought to the community, I think, before it reaches any of these boards. We should be informed because we cannot get people out if they don't know what the projects are about, honestly. It's, especially with historic districts, it's very complicated to people. They don't understand all the rules, but it can be explained in a meeting prior to here. So I would like for that to be for the Historic Preservation Office to recommend it when there's an active group like we are who brought forth the historic district and continually try to improve it to, in fact, engage us. And then the last thing I would like to bring to all of your attention is the Jersey City Women's Club is being sold by St. Dominic's. And we're advocating, the WISCA is advocating for its purchase as a community center, since it's turnkey for that purpose as opposed to any other purpose. And so what I would like to do, I have had many community members walk through it, including many of our council people, hoping yet to get the mayor as well as some of the other decision makers. But I would like to extend an invite to all of you. That's why I gave you my card. If you would email me and say you would like to go to the Women's Club and see it in its intact form, and it is a beautiful building inside, that you come and see this building. So I'm extending that invite to all of you to do that. So please reach out to me. We've been having multiple times that it's been open. So we may have it open on Friday of like 4 o'clock at the end of this week. So that might be something that if you have time, you could come. And so I did all three, right?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlene.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to close public comment?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. All right, sorry about the confusion. Paul,
Well,
If you would raise your right hand and just swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Thank you, and if you could state and spell your name for the record.
Name is Paul Vega, Paul Vega.
Before we begin the application, Maggie, I don't know if you wanted to respond to Ms. Burke's question or comment about having matters of historic significance brought to their local communities before the application comes to the commission.
I will make sure that, I will take extra efforts to make sure that all of the new construction projects or projects that are of the substantial nature are referred to her community organization. We do our best, but I will make sure everything is sent in the future.
And ultimately, we can only recommend that the applicant speak to the community. We can't compel them to do that.
That is correct. There is no, it would be considered exceeding the MLUL to require someone to appear before the community.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Paul? Bridget, you were able to swear him in? Okay, great. But since you have not presented in front of this board before, if you would just quickly give our chair your qualifications, including if you have a current license in the state of New Jersey.
Yes, I have a current license in the state of New Jersey and also in the state of New York. I've been licensed for about 40 years and working initially in traditional architecture roles, then having left and worked for large real estate developers for a major hotel company, W Hotels, and subsequently started the office again doing hotels and single-family residential.
Great.
Our office is in Edgewater. And I've not appeared before a board in Jersey City, but we've done several projects here. And our last board appearance was in Weehawken.
Great. Thank you. Staff recommends that the chair accept qualifications of Mr. Vega as an expert in the field of architecture.
Okay, I accept.
Thanks. All right, you may begin your presentation.
Thank you. The presentation is for, or the proposal is to conduct to develop a rooftop terrace on the roof of a four-story row house in the Hamilton Park District, as you're all aware. In addition to that, there's a master bedroom on the fourth floor just below the roof, which is to be renovated as well, and 2 floors below, the kitchen and living room and dining room are also to be developed. The first page of the documents just shows, basic information, some zoning information, and code information. Building code. If you go to the next page, this page obviously shows on the upper left photos of the existing facade, the 8th Street facade, which is just to be cleaned, and the construction documents will denote the proper methods of cleaning a historic facade, and no other work is proposed on that street facade. The adjacent image is the same, and then on the rear, the bottom left photo shows the rear, and in the rear, we're proposing at the second floor level, which is the kitchen, to remove 2 windows and the center brick masonry wall to create a larger opening onto the existing deck. And in the rear, excuse me, the plaster finish would be refinished and really cleaned up. But other than that, there would be no work on that rear facade. Adjacent to that, on the right, we have the 2 site plans, an existing, and then the one on the far right, which shows the proposed green rooftop terrace, which is basically set back 10 foot 1 inch from the street facade and 10 foot 1 inch from the rear facade, which the setback required by code, I believe, was 10, so we're just a bit shy of that. And then the center would be a raised roof terrace, and the finish is intended to be grass. So we have some finishes, but we can show them at the end, perhaps, or I can show them now.
Show them now. Typically, we just drop them off with one commissioner and we'll pass them around.
Excuse me. And then on that roof, in order to gain access, we've created on the west side that little sliding rooftop enclosure, little bulkhead that comes out about 4.5 feet. It's denoted in the sections, but it's a sliding rooftop in order to minimize the height and visibility from the street. And then the last sketch on the bottom left is in the neighborhood. Hamilton Park is in the center. There are several residences with approved roof terraces there. And I think that's it. Then the next page, please. This one takes a bit, but this page indicates the materials visually and some of the components that we are unable to get samples of, obviously. The upper left is the shop drawing for the type of metal door. It's a steel door with 3 muntins. That's about 9 feet wide, 8 foot tall. So there's an image of the door's style and then a shop drawing from the manufacturer. Adjacent to that is the stucco finish and color. So we have the actual sample in the little box. The black vertical metal siding, which would surround the little bulkhead enclosure. A spec for the grass of the roof. A detail of the window head or the door head in the back as it is inserted into the new masonry opening, and then the plaster wrapping, so there's no trim, there's no detailing around the window as it exists now. Then we go to the bottom left. That shows the manufacturer's drawings of the sliding roof window. And the picture is not our project, but the end result, if approved, would look like that, except the enclosure would be black instead of white. The windows on the sliding panel would also match that in color. The last one is a required drawing for the city, I think it's a city block site plan. Next, please. Here we have the site sections. The upper section is taken from 7th Street. The person standing is at the curb, and there is an adjacent garage directly across or behind our property line. So as you can see, the view to the residence is obscured. The bottom image shows the 8th Street, or the building section, 8th Street, and then the first person at the curb line would not see the proposed bulkhead. As you move into the park, you're at about 89 feet is where you would start to see the railing that's parallel to 8th Street. And then if you go to the far side of the park to 9th, which the distance is shown there, but obviously you would start to see it because of that distance through the trees.
Could we, could this be made full screen?
Yes, can you make it, please? Yeah, just zoom into the,
F11?
Could you hit F11 on the keyboard? It's not giving a full.
doesn't want to.
Yeah, they're not in Acrobat, so I don't think F11 in this case
Zoom
is.
was right though, whatever.
Yeah, you could zoom in and
Yeah.
just zoom into the top one.
That's much better. Was. Oh, too much.
We also use Bluebeam, and it also does the same for us. So you're good.
Zoom in a little bit more if you want, just a tiny, a little more. Yes, I think that's good.
It comes in clear behind us.
Right, so you'll see on the left is 7th Street, a person, then that's the top of the garage, and then obviously nothing is visible onto the building directly behind the property line on 7th. And then the other side, which is obviously more visible, you see, right, the person standing at the curb 6 feet, you don't see anything. If you move into the park 89 point, I think it's 5 inches or 81.5, then you start, that's the first glimpse you would get of the railing and that little bit of the bulkhead. And then across the park, you see the dimension right there, 540 feet, you would see the bulkhead and the railing across the park. And then a little more zoom, or is that clear?
That's good.
Perfect. Next, please. Keep zooming. You can keep it at that scale and just scroll. Right, so these are existing conditions. The ground floor and the first floor, the parlor floor, are one unit, and which are being are undisturbed, not to be adjusted or modified in any way. The front of the ground floor is the existing mechanical, so all the electrical meters and et cetera are there. The third plan on the right is the second floor, which is the first floor of the unit that we are working on. So that shows the existing. You come up the stairs, there's a kitchen with an island, and in the back room, there's a kitchen and a dining table, and then you see the window and the door leading to the existing deck, which again is not being adjusted. Next, please. On the left, we have the third floor, which has 2 bedrooms, children's bedrooms, being untouched. except for the restroom. The bathroom is being renovated, basically in the same position where the fixtures are, just new finishes and new fixtures. The floors will probably be sanded and resealed, but the existing floors are intended to remain. Then the middle image shows master bedroom existing, which will basically be removed, everything in there for the most part. And then the last image shows the roof. And the roof notably has an existing rooftop unit there, and that was obviously to remain. And it also has a couple of skylights, and that's it. Next, please. Section of the existing building. You can see on the right we have, 8th Street, steps going up, and you see the unit 1, the residence of 2 lower units not to be disturbed, and then the 3 upper, which is where the scope of work is intended. And then next, please. These are the demolition plans, which I explained that I think we could skip the next 2 because they're just basic drawings. And then that one we can skip as well because everything is being demolished on that floor. And then now we see the proposal. So in the center is the 2nd floor. So when one arrives at that floor, there's now a dining table and built-in millwork piece on the wall. And then the back is the kitchen, where we have the stove, cooktop, refrigerator on the right side, center island, and here you see the door, the window, pardon me, which is demolished and increased to about 8 feet or 9 feet within the existing opening. And then 2nd floor, just the bathroom is being redone. And then if you go to the master floor above, and you can see that you come up the stair, and then you enter basically what is a large dressing room full of millwork, some sliding panels into the master bedroom. Then there's a sliding door into the bathroom in the rear. So new tub, shower, and vanity. With the fixtures almost in the identical location, just upgraded and redone. And then the plan in the center shows you a blow up of the grassed area where the rooftop unit is, a new circular skylight in the back, and then the stair that goes down, which would be a new stair. And then the one on the right, the last drawing, is roof plan showing you the glass enclosure basically at the top, and then shows some fire-rated millwork because it's adjacent building, so we'll have to redo that once the roof is replaced. Next, please. Electrical, I don't know if that's really that critical. We could skip those 2. Floor finishes, et cetera, I think we can skip those because that's all interior. And then the facade. Ooh, it takes a while. This is the 8th Street facade. The image that is visible is the existing. Actually, I would think very accurate because we had LiDAR prepare the documents for the building. The owner was very interested in making sure it was exact. So it's a true representation. And then on the right, it shows the bulkhead and the railing. If you want to just zoom in on that, please, Vinny. At the top, no, at the roof, right? So you'll see, obviously, in elevation, you're seeing it full on, but you see the bulkhead there, the black aluminum or the black metal siding, and then the open guardrail. And then beyond is the approximate location of the rooftop unit, right? But again, that is set back 10'1", I believe, from the face of the building. Shall we go to the next, please? It's not that seamless. The next one is should be the rear, right? Here we go. Ah, beautiful. So on the left, we have the existing rear facade, which has a deck. It has a circular stair. on that second floor, kitchen floor of the unit we're working on. On the right side is the proposal with the new door. So it's 3 doors. The operable one is on the east side onto the existing deck. We're not showing the railing, obviously, for clarity, but the existing rail is to remain. And then when you go to the top, you'll see the rooftop unit, and then the railing and the bulkhead as it returns as well. Right, so it's mirror image to the front facade. Do you want to zoom in on that a little bit, or no, not really? No. Okay, next, please. We're almost there. So here's a section of the top 2 floors and the proposed stair. You'll see the sliding glass door in the center where that gentleman is standing. That slides back. It's on a electrified system tied to the weather and everything, so there will be no issues with water coming in. And I think the key here is the darker arrow diagonally going up is the street line from the opposite side of 8th Street, where you can see that it doesn't really, you do not see the bulkhead from that location. Next, please. Then just cross sections showing the front, showing the back. Just more information. Next, please. And then we have structural drawings, which I don't think you really need to look through. But that's our presentation and the design proposed.
Do any commissioners have any questions?
Can we see the sightline diagram again, or do you have a photograph showing what's visible from 7th Street?
I do not have a photograph. I apologize. I do have a paper copy, which might be maybe a little bit easier to see.
I just want to clarify if the changes at the rear facade will be visible or not.
Just Paul, Paul, if you're gonna be presenting anything to the commission, I need to do it from the podium and into the microphone. I know we're all looking at the same plans, but
Actually, go to that one, it's fine. Actually, stay there. So the black highlighted property is obviously our building. If you go directly south to 7th Street, that little building that she's pointing to, that is a 1-story garage that's obscuring the view directly from there. So that little building, correct, that's shown there. We measured that, field measured that, and it's an existing 1-story garage. But unfortunately, I don't have a photo. I do have one on my computer, but not here. And then the rest of the block obviously has some residences, 3-story buildings. I think the one on the corner is 3 stories, I believe. So that's the section line. You can see where it's taken directly for that drawing.
So did you personally go to 7th Street and see that there's no visibility of the back of the building?
Yes, we went back there and we did, as I said, we did take some pictures. I don't unfortunately have them, but I can submit them if needed. But we did walk the property once we understood fully the requirements of the ordinance, that it's not visible from the back, even though it's not as important, quote unquote, as the front, but we did look at it and you cannot see it.
Okay. Yeah, I think photos would be helpful, but we have the sightline drawing in your testimony under oath.
any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we can move to open public comment. If there are any members of the public present who would like to speak regarding this application, please approach the public comment mic. Staff sees none and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
Who was the first?
Garriga.
Okay. Sure. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move into staff comments on this. You'll have a copy of the staff report. This is a pretty straightforward roof deck application. As was presented, this is minimally visible from all the way on 9th Street and through the park. We've had roof deck applications like this in the past, albeit on the other side of the park. and have approved them, understanding that visibility at that point is really not an adverse effect. It's not going to cause any harm to any of the historic resources. So we do recommend that the commission approve this project with the conditions in the staff report. All of the conditions in the staff report are our standard conditions for roof decks.
And Maggie, you also agreed that the combined window openings at the rear facade are not visible from anywhere on 7th Street?
Yeah, I did a lap of this Friday morning and I could not see any meaningful part of the rear facade here. And I did it with my glasses on too. So,
And I want to say too, I don't remember all the specifics of some of the other roof decks we got on, but this is also an interesting bulkhead in that it's not like a full-size stair bulkhead, so it's smaller and shorter than normally we see, which is usually like at least 7, if not 8 or 9 feet tall.
Yeah,
So this
and-
helps cut down the visibility of this system.
right, this is actually the first time, at least in my experience, I've seen a bulkhead design like this. I'm excited to see how it plays out. I think it could be a really good option for applicants, especially people are having trouble sourcing sky doors lately. So this could be a nice alternative to that. So, any other questions from commissioners? If not, staff recommends a motion for approval with the conditions in the staff report.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Before we take a roll call vote, do you guys accept the conditions in the staff report?
Yes,
Great.
they're acceptable.
All right. Commissioner Blazak,
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon,
Aye.
Commissioner Edgecombe,
Aye.
Commissioner Kay,
Aye.
Commissioner Callback,
Aye.
Commissioner Sandkamp,
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther,
Aye.
Commissioner Gucciardo is absent, Commissioner Sakong is absent, Vice Chair Cronin,
Aye.
and Chair Griga.
Aye.
All right, there are 9 votes in favor, none against, and no abstentions. The COA with conditions is approved.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Hopefully not too long.
Samples are over here. Okay. Before we call the next case, I will note that Commissioner Sakong has arrived, and it's 7:21. And then this does mean, for the record, Commissioner Callback, as our second alternate, you will participate in the hearing, but we will not be recording your vote. Okay, Corey, if you want to call the next case.
Okay. Calling up case H-25-0036. Applicant Eugene O'Connell on behalf of Rekha Patel, owner, address 84 Coles Street, block 11213, lot 2.01. The zone is the Harsimus Cove Historic District. Harsimus Cove Historic District for the certificate of appropriateness for the proposed construction of a new 4-story, 2-unit residential building and associated work site in the Harsimus Cove Historic District. Recommendation to the Jersey City Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners, for the opportunity. I represent Rekha Patel, who is in the audience tonight, and thank you for this opportunity. Before I call my witnesses, Jensen Vasile and Carolyn Westell, I have a short opening statement and a couple of items to be marked. The first item is the zoning chart for an approval for development on this project that was made by this commission in 2020. I guess we'll mark that Exhibit A.
Yes. Here, I can take them, Jean. It's multiple copies for the commissioners, correct? Okay. I
So you want to,
can pass them.
okay, thank you.
All right, Bridget, this can be A1. And we can put previous approval zoning chart.
And then Exhibit B is the zoning chart for this presentation tonight.
Okay, that can be A2. Take one and pass it.
And then A3 would be the Historic Preservation Commission Certificate of Appropriateness for the project that was approved in 2020.
Okay, and we can do, this one can be A3, H20-038 approval.
Okay, so good evening, Commissioners. The property in question at 84 Cole Street is really somewhat of an outlier among the other properties in the area of the city. And trying to develop the property on this undersized lot is kind of like trying to fit a round peg in a square hole. There are reasons that these lots have been vacant for over 46 years. In fact, one of the lots has been vacant for 66 years. Just shows that how difficult it is to develop a project on this parcel. The size of this lot and the flood elevation make it impossible to design a livable space when you consider the flood elevation and that the first floor can only be used for storage. I reviewed the staff report submitted for this project and believe that the commissioners would be prejudiced against the application, so I want to discuss it up front. The report mentions a prior approval in this vacant lot, but doesn't go into what that approval was. The approval was heard October 3rd, 2019, under H19-191. The approval was for a building similar in height and bulk as the building we are proposing today. In fact, that building required 6 bulk variances, while our building only requires 3. Building coverage, building height, and rear yard setback. Our building, despite the increase in flood elevation from 9 to 11 feet, is shorter than the building approved in 2020. The 2020 approval received the Certificate of Appropriateness, wherein the HPC staff found the application to be consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards for historic preservation, stating, while the building is significantly taller than the adjacent properties, the applicant has taken care to design the building to visually follow the roof sight lines of the block, emphasizing the historic rhythm. Additionally, the proposed iron spotted brick and unpainted wood windows are a modern interpretation of historically appropriate materials. The front door opening, while larger than the adjacent openings, follows the overall pattern and rhythm of the block. Staff would normally object to a roof top element that is visible from the public right-of-way, but acknowledges that due to the nature of the undersized lot, it is not possible for the addition to be constructed in a manner that would be visible. Not be visible. My client is a Jersey City resident, and when she purchased this property, she was aware of the prior approval of this Historic Preservation Commission. It is important to note the Commission approved the prior application by a unanimous 7-0 vote. In granting approval, the Commission specifically validated the building's contextual harmony, noting its interpretation of historically appropriate materials and its adherence to the sight lines of the block. Reading the staff report for our project, you would feel that the applicant made no effort to incorporate the recommendations from the Senior Historic Preservation Specialist, Michael Ajimov. The opposite is true. Our team has worked for over a year in a rigorous and collaborative review process through multiple rounds of revisions and back and forth consultations. We have significantly refined the project's aesthetic and technical impact. Materiality, we revised brick and siding colors to achieve a more nuanced relationship with the surrounding historic fabric. Fenestration, we recalibrated the sizes of the windows and the doors to better reflect the historic rhythm and scale of the Harsimus Cove streetscape. Most importantly, despite the flood elevation requirements increasing from 9 feet to 11 feet, we have successfully reduced the overall building height from 43 feet 6 inches to 43 feet 3.5 inches. We have successfully removed the variance for lot coverage and reduced the building coverage from 73.1% to 72.2%. It is important to note that this is not a reconstruction, but new construction, so that the standards of new construction historic district applies. Examples: 58 Cole Street, 221 Warren Street, and 26 Bright Street. Doors and windows do not have to replicate what existed in 1930. In conclusion, my experts, architect Jensen Vassell, professional planner Carolyn Westell, will address all these issues. Thank you for your time.
Do I set it up here?
Yes, you can set up there. Yeah.
The cable's right there. It's hanging on the table. Yeah, no problem.
While Jensen is getting set up, staff will note for the record that Mr. Vasil has previously presented in front of this board and has been previously qualified as an expert in the field of architecture many times before. All right, Jensen, and we'll just swear you in when you are ready.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Just state the claim.
Jensen Vasil, Jensen. V as in Victor, ASIL. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Jensen Vasil. I'm the architect for the project at 84 Cole Street.
Could you just make sure the green light is on?
There we go.
Thank you.
Start again. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Jensen Vasil. I'm the architect for the project at 84 Cole Street. As Mr. O'Connell introduced, the project is for a new building on a vacant lot that had with a previous approval. The new building is on a 30-foot by 50-foot, 30-foot wide by 50-foot deep lot on the east side of Cole Street between 5th and 6th Streets. The lot has been vacant for many years. We are seeking to build a 4-story brick building with 2 units, a lot coverage proposed of just over 72%. Which equates to 1,083 square feet per floor. And the lot area is 1,500 square feet. The lot is undersized for area and depth, and we're seeking building variances for the building coverage, height, and the rear yard. On the first sheet HPC 1, you can see the zoning table, which outlines the same with the variances listed, C variances. As Mr. O'Connell introduced, we did work quite hard to get the building height down. The flood elevation at the time of the previous approval was 9, and the first floor was at 10, elevation 10, so 1 foot of freeboard above the elevation. Currently, it stands at 11, with 1 foot of freeboard being at 12. And also their original building height was measured from grade in the front at 6.5 instead of at the middle of the top curb, the average top curb at the middle of the lot, which is technically 5.1. So with all of these almost 3.5 or 3 feet plus that were taken away or against the building, we were able to still come in under. We did that through shrinking the building heights, the floor-to-floor heights, but one of the biggest factors is just that the first floor elevation ends up being about midway up the first floor of the 2 adjacent buildings. So that's just a factor of where design flood elevation ends up being. So on sheet HPC 1, can see we're in the Harrison Mills Cove district. We are one lot in from the corner of 5th and Coles on the east side. On the second sheet, sheet HPC 2, we have on the left the existing site plan, which is just the vacant lot, but it does show the encroachments of the 2 adjacent buildings. There are some remaining chimneys and protrusions from the next door neighboring buildings that don't allow us to even use the full width of the lot. The lot we have to come in a little bit to accommodate, and the lot is relatively flat from front to back, but it is bound almost entirely on the north side with a building on the rear or the east side, and then also on the south side, it's about 70% of its depth has a building adjacent to it. So I'll show you some pictures that'll illustrate that a little more clearly. Our building is on the right, number 4, the proposed site plan. We utilized we sited the building in line with the adjacent buildings. 72% coverage, extends just a little bit beyond the neighboring building to the south of us. We do have a 10-foot rear yard with grass and a little bit of paving and a stoop. And in the front of the building, we have just enough to have 2 stoops that end up at the first floor elevation. In fact, we had to make up the last step right at the front of the building facade because of how much we had to come up. So we reused the existing fence line, started the stoop right at the beginning, right at the fence lines that align with the neighbors, and we have a masonry stoop that ends up going up with a door on each side, entrances for each unit. And in the middle, there's a garden area, a planted area, which would have shrubs and whatnot, and also on a small buffer strip on both sides of the stoop between the neighbors. So also there, just to mention while I'm on it, that there is a setback shown between the neighboring building to the south and to the north. There's little slivers that are filled with pea gravel, which is just an ability to get the site to drain in an area in an irregular shaped area where we can't build directly against the sidewall. On the next sheet, HPC 3 shows the existing conditions. First, the aerial photo looking down with the lot. Just helpful to note that 2 houses further to the south have a 4th story that are far set back from the front of the facade. And then on the number 6, the photo of the vacant lot, you can see the 2 chimneys coming into the building from the building to the south. You can also see how closed in it is with the buildings to the east. So you're right against the 2 buildings coming in from 5th Street. Number 5, we're maintaining that same fence line on photo 5, and then finally 7's from across the street. Just gives you a little bit more context inside of that. The building on the corner is undergoing renovations, but it's not, so far as I know, it's not changing there's no addition proposed. The following sheet, HPC 4, the first plan is there's a small cellar, partial cellar will be used for the sprinkler system, accessible through the common stair, one of the stair halls on the left-hand unit. On the number 2 is the first floor plan. So there's a choice in this building to either split the building. The previous application had split the building in half, front and back, for units front and back. With buildings in a small floor plate, there's the most advantageous layout really is to have the one entire unit on one floor versus having 2 smaller slivers where the stair commands a bigger portion of the floor plan. So it's more, if you have a 15-foot, not even you wouldn't even have a 15-foot lot here if you bifurcated it. But by the time you came in, you only have 12 feet, and then you take 3 of that out for the stair along the length on every floor. It takes up a significant amount of the floor plan. I know this. I just did a very similar project on Fifth Street, and the stair is a commanding presence and very difficult to get around. It makes for a very odd layout, especially if there's not as much depth as the other project had. So on the first floor is the lower unit, or the lower floor for unit 1, kitchen in the back far right, dining room, open living room to the front, and the stoop and a small terrace in the backyard. Number 4 is the second floor plan, which has 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms technically, 3 bedrooms in it, and 2 baths and a laundry space. And then the third floor on number 3 is the living floor, living kitchen, dining for unit 2, and then finally the 3 bedrooms and 2 baths on the top floor. We're matching the similar railing style with the metal obelisk along the street frontage. That's detail number 7. And on the roof plan, number 6, we have a roof deck with a sky door proposed, and 2 HVAC units that would be screened. So 2 heat pump units that are at the back of the deck, furthest away from the street, not visible from the public right-of-way. It's also important to mention that the 4th floor is set back 3 foot 8 inches from the front facade, to reduce the presence of the building at the street level for the pedestrians. On the following page, HBC 5, on the left is the front proposed building facade. So brick facade with a stone water table, cement stucco at the base, at the bottom level, and then a cornice at the top of the 3rd floor, a composite cornice. And then finally, the top floor is set back from that, which has board and batten siding. All of it would be proposed to have casement windows, aluminum clad, and the size and width and frequency consistent with the block frontage. On the rear of the building, we have hardy panel siding in a medium gray color and casement windows. Just to mention too, the brick is a red brick. We've modified the brick with staff a little bit just to make it as warm and consistent with the neighborhood as possible. On the following page, HBC 6, the sides which are exposed, so there are sides between the 2 buildings. You can see the adjacent neighbors. We are returning the brick on the 2 sides so that whatever is exposed, the front facade wraps around. The brick wraps on the sides, and then there would be panel siding on the remaining portion that's exposed. Detail 7 is the proposed section. Shows that sprinkler room at the kind of the partial cellar, and then unit 1 taking up the 1st and 2nd floor, and unit 2 being the 3rd and 4th. There's just on the sightline diagram, showing the sightline diagram from across the street at Cole Street, not showing that the roof deck is not visible from across the street. And also there's a revision cloud which had the bulkhead at one point, but now has the sky door. HPC 7 is details relating to the roof deck railings, just standard aluminum railings, the masonry stoops at the front, with at the front being matching the predominant railing type along the front garden, and then at the rear a similar metal railing to the rear first floor unit, and then a street tree in the front, and a heavier cornice at the 3rd floor, which is we'd want to draw the pedestrian's eye to try to be as contextual as possible, and then at the top of the fourth floor, there's no cornice, so it minimizes the impact of or the accentuation of the top floor. HPC 8 is the window details for the front. Again, aluminum clad windows, and the door is a aluminum clad entry door with a solid panel down below. And finally, on HPC 9 is the rear window details. The same. These are clad, fiberglass clad, Ultrix clad windows on the back. And then finally, HPC 10, the sky door details and the streetscape. So let's just spend a minute on the two streetscapes. You can see where the base flood elevation here is about midway through the two neighboring buildings. So under current conditions, that's as low as we could start that building. It also makes aligning, which is in the staff report, substantially challenging. We can replicate, size and sort of in frequency and configuration, but aligning windows and sills would either mean raising the building up, entering it, or just having a bottom floor that was completely open with no habitable space, so that you could enter in the bottom. It would be storage, and then but it would be limited to the three floors of habitable space. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. I do think this is a really interesting way to deal with the problem of a 4-story building here. So I appreciate the setback at that top floor. I think that really is an interesting way to deal with that issue of the rest of the buildings being a floor shorter. You were talking about something with the stairs earlier. Is that the reason why the two stoops can't be in the same location? Because the other buildings on the block all have their entrances on the north side, except for the southern. If we're kind of looking at this kind of as two buildings almost, you have those two entrances. And I think that's one way that this would also help. What if you could flip that? But I think you were talking about the stairs presenting an issue, and I think that was part of the reason why you can't flip that entry. Okay. Have you thought about if there's any way you can get window openings in what I guess is the cellar space, or the area down there where we kind of have the cast stone water table and the what's kind of reading as the basement area? Even if what is that space back there? Is it just storage space, or?
It's crawl space, except for the partial cellar, which is only for the sprinkler. We have not investigated that. We would be happy to, if that were, we would be happy to do that, because we really don't like having that blank wall.
Yeah.
The planter presented an opportunity to put shrubs against it and really take away just the austerity of it, but presents a problem, considering there's no habitable space below it.
Yeah, I think that's another way that this could be better tied into the block, is if there's something there even if it's not a window or something that recalls a window opening or some sort of blind window even, I think that would help tie it into the rest of the block. For the setback top story, the one thing that bothers me about it just a little bit is it seems like there's a lot of space between the top of the windows and the cornice. And I see it says like 8, I guess the floor to ceiling heights are all the same, correct? But correct. Is there a way that you can kind of cut down on the apparent height on that a little bit? I see that, there's a roof, and then the parapet does seem like a small space, but I'm wondering if there's a way that you can you can cut down on what looks like just a little bit of a lot of a blank space up there above those window openings.
We could look at raising the windows, the sill heights on those top floor windows, further up towards the ceiling. That would definitely help shrink the space between the head of the window and the there's it's called a parapet, but it's really only a foot between the roof and that curb.
Okay. I'll leave it to anyone else. I might have some more, but see if any commissioners have any questions for now.
Can you just show us the full building sections again?
Sure.
Is there a section that shows sort of like the cornice detail you were showing? You had an enlarged detail for that. Do you have a section that encompasses all of those details, or is it more of a schematic section?
So we have, this is the detail of that cornice, the outline. There's a larger detail on the actual detail on this sheet.
So that's a detail of the third floor cornice?
Yeah, it's a flat
Okay,
panel
okay.
with a cove, and then a fascia board, and then a sort of another step for the at the edge.
Okay. So the top floor, it just goes to the roof, and then the railing is in addition. There's no extra parapet up there.
That's correct. So at the top floor at the fourth floor, there is just a fascia board. That is it. There's just the fascia board that's here. Nothing that protrudes out.
Yeah, I agree. There's something about the way that this is on the top floor. It just looks so much taller than the other floors. I can't quite wrap my head around why it looks so tall, other than possibly the window placement, or the scale. But it just reads as incredibly tall. I mean, I know this is also an elevation, which is not a true representation of how you'll experience it. Are there any axonometrics or renderings for this?
I do not.
Because I think that would be very helpful to see, and especially any comparative studies between what was previously approved and this, just because a lot of us on this commission were not here in 2020. So I have very little familiarity with what was already approved.
I would also just advise the commission to focus on this application and not any other approvals that were issued, which are actually expired now as well.
Actually, Jensen, that we're on this one, I see. So the windows at the second floor are 5'6", and then it's 4'6" at the third floor. What are the sizes of the windows on this floor?
They're 5'6". They're
So it returns to that.
correct.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the sizes of the top two bedrooms facing the street that determines the depth of the setback?
Sure. So they're one is 10 feet and the other is 14.3 on the left and the right. By 11, they're 11 feet and change to the width of the left and 10-11 on the right.
How did you determine that the depth of that setback?
The 3.8. Well, that bedroom is really the controlling. Well, that and even the back bedroom, because everything is this tied together. If this moves back further, you'd have a single sink. Basically, move everything back. This bathroom is not getting any thinner. This hallway is not getting any less wide. So if you move this back, you basically have to crush the bathroom and this bedroom in the back in order to make these, to move the whole assembly back.
I'll just note that in the absence of renderings that really show the visual impact of that top floor from the street, apart from the front on, projected elevation. Those bedrooms, including the lower left one, seem pretty generous, and I understand your point about not wanting to go to a single sink versus a double sink, but weighed against the visual impact, I would question whether or not 3.8 is, or what did you say the depth was?
It's 3.8.
Yeah, to me, I can't help but question if that is really the best we can do. Even in just, a couple more feet would, I think, go a long way to help this application.
I would also, it should just be noted that the cornice too, the cornice projects 18 inches as well. So that helps to the 3'8" is from the property line, but the cornice itself projects as well. So it really
Understood. And one other question. I did notice that the parapet on the front elevation, the height of the parapet differs from the height of the parapet on the back elevation. The back, I think it says 1'6", and the front, you said, is a foot or so?
Yes, correct.
I don't know if you have that detail. Could that be further minimized to just a couple inches?
Yes.
Flashing it.
Correct.
So that I feel like we can gain some depth, and I feel like we could gain a couple more inches on the height, and I think we can improve the visual sort of forehead of that penthouse with the composition of the windows, all of which seem like small moves, but
Sure.
all of which I think in total might be helpful.
Okay.
The other comment I had is looking at the side elevation. I do appreciate wrapping the brick around, and I think that's important, but it almost seems like such a small area, and I don't know what our view is going to be from the street of that. It just seems like such a small area that I almost wonder if it should be extended some, or maybe just extended at the same level as that top floor, while what is essentially the penthouse remains the hardy panel above it. I just don't know how we're going to see that and interpret that from the street. So that might be somewhere where like a rendering kind of showing the view helps us understand that. And
The rendering might probably help. I can just, I'll explain that because we're set back from the neighboring buildings, you will see it because there's going to be a gap between theirs and ours. So you'll see at least a foot and a half on the right, and probably 4 inches on the. From here it looks like 4 inches on the left. So you will see that kind of carry all the way down. It wouldn't just be that one exposed patch, which would be very hard to see from any angle. But I agree that it might you might get more of a sense of the context with the rendering.
And the only other thought I had, and maybe it's good, we're all talking about design things and not, we should talk about the massing. I really don't have an issue with the proposed massing or the height, and I think we do need probably some renderings to help us kind of better understand the impact on the block. That being said, I think one other thing about the facade is the windows on the parlor floor, the first floor. I almost wonder if those should be a little bit taller than the windows at the, like another 6 inches might also help differentiate that and bringing more into keeping with the tradition of having first floor or parlor floor windows be the tallest. So that's maybe another way to look at the facade and tweak that. And kind of like Austin said, these are all kind of small changes, but I think would make for a better project. And one other thing too is maybe some sort of side light or transom adjacent to the entry doors as well, so that at least the size of the entry door opening is the size of the stoop, instead of having that brick on either side of it, to have it be a little bit wider than the windows above. I think those are my comments.
That's fair.
Any further questions? Would you like to move on to your next witness? I know Carolyn's here.
Okay, so my next witness is Carolyn Worstel. But thank you for all those great comments. They're appreciated.
Staff, before Carolyn begins, staff notes that Carolyn has previously been qualified as an expert in planning in front of this board before.
Good evening.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth?
I do. Carolyn Worstel, Carolyn, Worstel, Worstell. Good evening, board. I'm happy to be here. And so I'm really here to sort of talk about some of the planning aspects of it and really talk about, I think, as mentioned, maybe not so much the details, but talking about the bulk of the building and the scale of the building and how that relates to the historic design standards that are for new buildings in historic districts. So again, I think I wanted to preface this and talk about this site. This site has been vacant a long time. It's been vacant since like 1960s, 1980s. So these buildings have been down for more than 40 years. So very few, if anyone, remembers what the buildings that were on this site looked like, and it's been in this condition and vacant and that sort of gaped tooth for a very long time. I think that really gets to the fact, as we mentioned, it's a small lot. There are, challenges with developing on small lots. And then we've got new challenges, which you may not have had in the past. And that comes down to a lot of what's going on with the flood hazard rules. So, I think what we want to sort of remember is that we can't recreate the past here. We cannot rebuild the building that was there. And you guys oftentimes deal with a lot of buildings where the building is there, and so flood hazard is not as much of an issue, because if the building hasn't been knocked down, you're not doing more than 50%, improvements. It's not a major improvement. The rules don't apply, but they apply here because this is a new building. So we're kind of in a situation where you're trying to find that context. But you're also running up against rules at the state level that you cannot get out of, that say that you cannot have any livable space within the floodplain. So I think that's really what is at the heart of this particular design, is that we're trying to find a way to build a building on the site that provides that context, but still is meeting the current regulations that say what you can build. And I think we also need to remember that, not all historic districts are, they're not cookie cutter. That's not how historically people designed. You might have gotten a section of row houses, but oftentimes those row houses were interspersed with one or two homes that were different, that were built by someone separately, or somebody knocked something down and built something differently. So, I think that's part of a historic context of a street, is that, not all the buildings were the same. They weren't cookie cutter. So I think really when we look at what are the standards for a new building, they say, you don't need to replicate what was there, but you want to reflect contemporary design standards. So the issues are, again, issues with flood hazard, sort of that design standards, but you want to look at something that's compatible. Height here, we have to raise that first floor out of the flood hazard area, but we are still somehow trying to come in less than a height that was previously approved for this site. So trying to really make some smaller floors, make some of those design constraints work, so that we can come in with a slightly shorter building. The other one is not just height, but also the width of the building. This is a little wider, but the way it's been designed, it looks like two row homes next to each other. So it's continuing that pattern of the narrow, 15-foot row homes that are characteristic of the block. Talk about compatible rhythm and repetition. Again, for the windows, the repetition is the 2x2. So each home has the two windows, and they're up, two windows on the 2 stories. So again, trying to keep some of that repetition with the way that the windows continue that rhythm and repetition. using the historically appropriate materials of the brick, while still introducing the more modern materials and modern design in that upper story to sort of try and create that separation between maybe the more historic 3-story context and the more, that other story. And in trying to find, things again where the scales and proportions of the windows and the doors, they don't all match. We were just talking about how, the windows aren't the exact same size, but that's historically appropriate, right? Because that's historically the separation between the scale and the importance of different floors would be reflected in the windows. So I think that, again, this building tries to take a lot of those historic characteristics that you would find and try to marry them into a building that, again, is trying to reflect some of the more modern design constraints. So I really think that this building does try to meet those standards for a new building here. And sometimes when as a planner, I look at, what happens, we have to go for variances for this. And when we look at that, we say, what happens if variances aren't granted, right? What happens if things are so overly prescriptive that you don't have those opportunities to create these ability to step away from the requirement. And what you happen is, if you had to design this so that it was, trying to exactly recreate what was there, you end up with a lot of space that isn't usable. And people aren't going to build space that isn't usable. And so, we end up with the same condition, which is a vacant lot. So it's really difficult, like I said, to design something for the very small site with a lot of the constraints here. So I think it's really trying to find how do we find a building that is meets the requirements and the restrictions of this site, while also trying to find something that is contextually appropriate in this historic district. And so I think that the building as designed with the input from city staff and then this input from this evening, I think really tries to meet those and meets those standards for new construction. So that's my testimony, unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions?
I don't have a question, but just a comment. One thing that I heard in the testimony, which I hadn't considered during the presentation up till that point, was that this is kind of a mirrored facade, which is to give the illusion that this is a twin attached row house to reduce the visual impact of the bulk. So not putting it out to the applicant or to staff or any of my fellow commissioners, if it might be prudent or advisable to somehow enhance that illusion by scoring the center of the building or creating some kind of a visual boundary to deepen that illusion and help reduce the visual impact. It's food for thought.
It's funny, we actually were just talking about that earlier, so I think we're on the same wavelength with that. Yeah, thank you.
I was actually, at that same exact moment, I had the same thought. And it also occurs to me that the implication of that is that the fourth floor doesn't the only part of the face of the fourth floor that needs to project out as far as it does is that one bedroom. And that the other bedroom, actually being much larger, could set back further. Something to study. I don't think we should be designing, for you, but I would be curious to see what the impact of that might be.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Well, that's our presentation, but if I'm reading the tea leaves, I think we like to have the opportunity to carry the proposal and come back and answer all the issues that you raised tonight, which I think are legitimate, and appreciate Mike's hard work on this, and that would be our preference.
I think I would like to hear from staff if we could, so that we could see if there's anything else that we could elicit or hash out before you go back and try to take our comments for revisions.
Yeah, if we want to maybe we'll open for public comment just so we could do it. We'll open it again next time, but and then I'll put some comments on the record, and then we can, if Eugene wishes to carry, he can carry to June 15th is the next meeting. But do we have a motion to open public comment?
Motion to open public comment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any members of the public that wish to speak regarding this application? Okay, staff sees no members of the public and recommends a motion to close public comment.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So I've been working with the applicant for a little while now on this application. A lot of the comments that I have provided to them, I think, have been covered largely by the commission. I know one of the things that I had recommended to them since the beginning was the positioning of those doorways, aligning them this way. It does further give that illusion that you have two independent structures that are joined rather than one large structure that's mirrored. I think that breaks the illusion of the rest of the street, as those adjacent structures all have the entryways on that left side. As far as the bulk goes, currently, as I'm viewing it, I struggle to see how it fits cleanly into the ordinance as it's currently written. The ordinance speaks for new construction, the site and setting, as well as the building height and the scale of the buildings. And I feel that as it currently has been presented, the building is quite out of scale with the adjacent properties being 3 stories. I recognize that there is base flood elevation. In the rest of Jersey City, there is a condition that allows you to account for some of that base flood elevation, but the historic district was specifically left out of that condition. So we do not have kind of a nice clean way of dealing with this. They are requesting a height variance to go above 40 feet. And with the adjacent structures being so small, being 3 stories, this will be significantly visible not only from Cole Street, but also as you turn the corner and continue down the street. I believe that's 5th Street. You will see it over those adjacent structures as well, because all of those remain at 3 feet for a majority of 5th Street. And so the applicant initially came in, I believe the initial height was in closer to 50 feet, and it has been reduced significantly. As I've stated to the applicant since the application was applied for, the bulk and massing are something that I struggle to support in this scenario. They do have a double wide lot, and it is just a big development on a very small parcel with adjacent properties that are historically significant that are very small. I think the commission provided a lot of really great ways to try to minimize that. I'll also echo possibly making, instead of horizontal panel on the upper floor, maybe some vertical, or instead of vertical, horizontal, to try to minimize that lengthening of that upper floor could also be something that would help. I don't know if the applicant has explored maybe mansarding the roof at all to make it, again, less visibly intrusive. All suggestions that have been provided that I think could help minimize the height and visual impact of the building.
Now, those are all visual mitigating factors, but at the end of the day, I mean, can you put lipstick on this pig and take it to the dance, or do you feel that would be sufficient to mitigate your concerns about the height, or is it ultimately just too tall?
So I think that, I have my professional opinion. I think that any mitigation that's possible or feasible should be explored. Ultimately, it is up to you guys as the commission to vote on the application. I can't give it a staff level approval. So I think that for me, my professional opinion would be to minimize the height as much as possible. I recognize that we're not going to have a 3-story building here next to the adjacent 3-story buildings. I think that that would be unreasonable, and it's not what I would be recommending. I do think that the height could be minimized further.
And you've talked about the height specifically. I mean, when you're talking about the bulk and massing, is it really just the height you're concerned about?
Yes, predominantly. Again, the rear yard setback is never going to be conforming, and I do believe it's only like a foot or two beyond what the adjacent structures are. The adjacent structure to the north is 100% lot coverage. So as far as a rear yard setback, it's not something that I'm particularly concerned about. It is predominantly the height with those adjacent structures.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Of course.
And just one other thing I have, just to put on the record, I still certainly agree that if the stoop would be able to switch the location, and like when I look at the proposed floor plan, I'm not quite getting why it can't be. So perhaps when they come back, they can talk about why it's not possible. Because looking at that floor plan on HPC4, I see space there, and I mean, it looks like you just go into the living room. Maybe that's not accurate, and there's going to be a wall there. I don't know, but I just like to further explain why that can't be flipped. And I think maybe the one other thing to look at is also the floor to ceiling height in that top floor as well, and see if that even a few inches. But these other tweaks we're talking about, I think, would add up to some big changes. Something like 18 inches can be a lot and help us really get this closer to the adjacent building. So.
Okay, again, appreciate all the comments, and we'll see you on June 15th.
All right, can we make a motion to carry the application to the June 15th meeting?
Motion to carry. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. We're going to take a 10-minute break so we can come back. It is 8:16 now. We will come back and be ready for the next case at 8:26. Okay, it is 8:28. If we want to call the meeting back to order,
Calling the meeting back to order at 8:28.
and we can call the next case.
All right, and that will be case number H25-0297, applicant Benjamin Wine on behalf of 26 Bright Street Corporation, owner. The address is 26 Bright Street, block 14106, lot 38, zone is the Van Voorst Park Historic District, for the certificate of appropriateness for the proposed construction of a new 4-story, 4-unit residential building and associated site work in the Van Voorst Park Historic District. Recommendation to the Jersey City Planning Board.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Benjamin Wine of Prime Tuval and Maselli on behalf of the applicant 26 Bright Street Corporation. As the Chairman just indicated, the application before you this evening is for a positive recommendation to the Planning Board for our proposed development of a vacant site located at 26 Bright Street, block 14106, lot 38, with a new 4-story, 4-unit residential building. This is kind of we're excited to present it to you, to be honest with you, because this is a unique opportunity to really infill a site in a historic district that has, to a large degree, a very cohesive aesthetic, and we're able to continue that, and we hope you'll agree. The one thing it does not have a cohesive nature, though, are the building heights. And we are a vacant lot sandwiched right between a 5-story building and a 3-story building that was approved for a 4th-story addition. And this is, like I said, it's a vacant site. And given that we are located actually within Zone 3 of the Bright Street redevelopment plan as well, everything about our application is conforming to those standards, with one exception, and I'll get to that momentarily. But this particular zone, including the historic zone within that plan, calls for 4 stories, 4 units, and all of the setbacks and coverages that we're proposing. What it doesn't do, however, is take into account what you heard with the last application, was that the fact that we're in a flood zone. And so we had an opportunity to come to you and say, instead of going before the planning board with a very minor height deviation, which is ultimately what we're proposing. We looked at if we were to build this more, what I would say more to the intent of a 4-story building, truly 40 feet, we would actually be significantly taller of the 4 stories, 40 feet. And so despite the fact that we are, I believe, and our architect will correct me if I'm wrong, approximately 7 feet into the floodplain, and so we need to start our residential floor at approximately 7 feet, we still managed to present a project where we're actually only 3'11" above what the height is permitted in the zone. And we did that by tweaking the floor-to-floor heights and ultimately coming up with a project that we believe is most appropriate for this site in order to maintain that 4-story aesthetic, which again sandwiches right between a 5-story and another 3-story with a 4th-story rear addition on it. And so we think that it's really the best and most appropriate way to use the site while also continuing the aesthetic, continuing some of the window lines. And like I said at the beginning of my presentation, we're excited to present it to you because this really was a well thought out project from our end. And what you're going to see here this evening is something that we've worked internally on for over a year at this point, and with HPC staff for probably at this point also the better part of 8 months or so. So I want to thank them for their time and thank you this evening for hearing our application. With that, I have 2 witnesses I intend to call. Our project architect, Preetal Shukla, who will take you through the plans that you already Preetal Shukla, who will take you through the plans that you see on your screen already this evening. And then we'll follow it up with our professional planner, Carolyn Worstel, who will speak to the general scheme, the neighborhood, and the context of the development that we are proposing here. So unless you have any questions of me, I'm happy to proceed with Ms. Shukla. Seeing none.
Okay. We do just need to swear you in and qualify you.
Sure. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth?
Yes.
And state and spell your full name.
Preetal Shukla, Prital, Shukla, Shukla.
Okay, Ms. Shukla, if you could just give the board a very brief explanation of your qualifications, including if you're licensed in New Jersey.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Preetal Shukla. I am a licensed architect in the state of New York and New Jersey. I'm also principal architect and founder of PS Architecture and Design firm located in Secaucus, New Jersey. I hold a master's degree of architecture from Pratt Institute in New York. Graduated in 2011. Since then, I have 15 years of professional work experience working with several residential development, infill design and development projects, renovations, additions within New York and New Jersey metropolitan area, including some active projects currently in Jersey City. I have also testified in front of other planning and zoning boards within New Jersey, such as Hoboken, Union City, Clifton, Weehawken. I'm well aware of the Jersey City historic design standards, and I'm hoping I can present tonight the project.
Thank you. Staff recommends that Chair accept Ms. Shukla's qualifications as an expert in the field of architecture.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can begin your presentation.
So Preetal, why don't you walk us through what we're proposing here this evening?
Sure. So before I explain the drawings and design intent of this project, I would like to bring attention to 3 main key aspects of this project. The first being the project fills a long vacant gap in an otherwise continuous contributing street wall on Bright Street. Second, the building, the way it is designed, is sympathetic to the historic block in scale, massing, materials, and fenestration, with all rooftop elements concealed from the public right-of-way. And third, the front facade employs traditional brick masonry, cast stone sill and lintels, a precast stone cornice with brick corbelling detailing, and a wood entry door, all responsive to the Italianate vernacular architecture of the surrounding buildings. I will now walk the commission through the drawings and proposed design. So on the first sheet, which is Z100, on the left side, you see the zoning table. So in terms, the project is 2,500 square feet lot, located in R3 residential infill zoning district within Van Wurst Park Historic District. We are proposing a 4-story, 4-unit building with approximate 6,983 square feet total building area, excluding partial cellar. All bulk parameters comply with one exception. The lot coverage at 73% against 80% max is compliant. The density at 4 units within 4.30 units allowed is compliant. The proposed rear yard as 30 feet is compliant. The front yard matching prevailing setback is compliant. The proposed building height at 43 feet 11 inches against the 40-foot baseline is the single height variance we are requiring, driven entirely by the flood elevation requirement. On the right side, you are seeing existing block plan indicating the red portion where the vacant site exists. On the west side, you see an existing 5-story building, and on the east side is an existing 3-story building. So if you see the proposed block plan, we have recently made an update to indicate the rear extension of the adjacent building, including a 4th-story partial bulkhead addition. On sheet G100, which is the proposed site plan, you can see the front yard or the front facade of the building matches the adjacent building facades. There is a 0-foot side yard proposed except for the east side light well due to the legal ventilation requirements, and a 30-foot rear yard is proposed as a private landscaped yard. All utilities, all the new utilities proposed will be underground and in compliance with JCMUA and PSCG standards. The green area ratio achieves 0.45 versus 0.25 required. I would also like to note the building entry and the front stoop entry steps towards the west of the building. They align with the adjacent building fence area. So the main entry is proposed on the west side with stoop stairs approximately 4 feet 11 inches above the existing grade to meet the design flood elevation. A front planter bed, as you can see here, the front planter bed is proposed with low railing aligning with the adjacent building low fence area also. At the same time, it conceals the cellar stairs going down, and the cellar is used only for utility and sprinkler room. The next sheet is the site landscaping and lighting plan. So one new street tree with a 5 feet by 10 feet tree pit is proposed with a tree guard 18 inches tall in compliance with Jersey City forestry standards. The lighting consists of the front facade wall sconce at the entry area as well as the second means of egress, and the rear facade where the patio area is to access the rear yard. There are some downlights proposed along the roof bulkhead area. And the intention for the light fixtures is to be downcast, residential in scale, with no glare from the public right-of-way. And we've provided both the light fixtures here, the wall sconce as well as the downlight. I will now walk you through the floor plans. A100 through A102 are the proposed floor plans. As you can see, the partial cellar floor is only 21 feet from the facade. Rest of the space is unexcavated crawl space. The cellar is proposed mainly for sprinkler room and bicycle storage, a gas meter, water meter, and trash removal, trash refuse area. I would like to note, because the site lies in this flood zone AE, the cellar will be wet flood proofed with flood vents already indicated on the floor plan, and the cellar is restricted for storage and utility use only. The first floor elevation is set approximately 5 feet above the grade to meet the design flood elevation standards. In terms of the first floor through fourth floor, there are 4 apartments. First floor has a 2-bedroom apartment. Second floor has a 3-bedroom apartment. And third and fourth floor have 2 duplex apartments. Each is 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom duplex apartments. Each Unit 3 and Unit 4, which are within 3rd and 4th floor, they have a private roof deck access with a private deck on for each of the unit. I will now spend some time explaining the design of the front facade. So the south elevation, which is the front facade facing the Bright Street, is the only public facing facade. The design draws directly from contributing Italianate and vernacular brick row house concept on this block, consisting of following features. The brick facade, front brick facade is proposed as red smooth brick with brown concave lime mortar joints, consistent with the historic masonry facade on Bright Street. An on-site mock-up panel will be prepared for staff and commission to review prior to full installation of the facade. Windows are punched openings which are set back 1 full brick width from the facade, providing the shadow line of historic masonry. The cast stone sill and lintels in dark brown with a base cast stone showing the water table line, a precast stone cornice with double soldier course brick band terminates the facade with cast stone coping above. Enlarged details are provided on sheet 404. As far as fenestrations are concerned, we are proposing Marvin Essential fiberglass double-hung windows with simulated divided lights in a 2/2 pattern with dark brown color windows. 4 windows per floor, each are 3 feet 6 inches wide by 6 feet tall, with consistent punch openings rhythm through 2nd and 4th floor. The first floor deviates only to accommodate the rear means of egress, corridor gate, and the recessed entry door. At grade level, a precast stone stoop with stone treads, black painted iron railing with cast newel round base tulip post, prefabricated wood door entry with side light and a transom carrying vinyl address numbering are the features at the grade. The brick wraps around the recessed entry with cast stone lintel above matching the window lintels. I will now move on the right side, which is the proposed rear elevation, which is the north elevation. This is not visible from the public right-of-way. It is fully enclosed by the adjacent contributing buildings and the rear yards of properties fronting Barrow Street. The rear facade is treated as a contemporary facade in stucco with Marvin aluminum-clad double-hung windows and sliding doors at balcony with black metal railing. The rear is designed to be honest about its contemporary nature while preserving the dignity of historic Bright Street facade. I will now explain the side elevations on sheet A201 and 202. Since the building is lot line, it has attached building on both the sides. One side you have the 5-story building and the other side you have the 3-story building with an approved 4th-story bulkhead. The side facades are proposed to have stucco finish to match with the rear facade. The front facade brick is proposed to wrap around to 12 inches. Sheet A203 shows the existing streetscape with a vacant lot indicated in red, disrupting the otherwise continuous wall of 3-story and 4-story row houses between Barrow and Grove Street. Sheet 204 shows the proposed condition with our proposed 4-story building, completing the missing tooth in the street wall, aligning with the prevailing setback, and relating to the neighbor's cornice line and 4-story rhythm of the block. Sheet A300 is the proposed building section with the sightline diagram indicating the sightline study from the public right-of-way confirming that the roof bulkhead is not visible from Bright Street. Rest of the sheets I have enlarged wall sections, detail of the entry area, the entry stoop stair details, entrance area with the wood prefab door, wood prefab side light, a transom and vinyl lettering for the building number with a cast stone header matching with the window headers. Sheet A400 are some of the enlarged details for the brick cornice elevation and section, the low iron fence railing matching with the adjacent property, the window typical front and rear window sections conforming one width of a brick recess, and HVAC unit enclosure detail with acoustical panels. Sheet 500 shows a typical material palette, and I have some material samples. I can pass it from here.
Okay, this way. And for the record, we should mark these as A1.
So I am showing the base. A is the base cast stone in dark brown color, the red brick facade with brown concave mortar, the stucco color with Monterey white for the rear and the side facades, aluminium double hung fiberglass windows, brown in color, typical door hardware for the entry door and egress doors, prefab entry door with the side light and railings. Sheet A501 shows the overall context, indicating the vacant lot. And as you can see on the west side, you have the 5-story building. On the east side, you have the 3-story building with a bulkhead 4th-story addition recently approved for 24 Bright Street. And finally, we have the photographs of the adjacent contributing building east and west side of our site, along a photorealistic rendering of a completed building in context. The rendering shows a building that is unmistakably new, but quietly and respectfully fills a long gap. Reading in scale and material with its neighbors and allowing the contributing buildings flanking it to remain the dominant historic voices on the block. In summary, the proposed building at 26 Bright fills a long vacant lot in a contributing street wall of Van Wurst Park Historic District, matches the prevailing front setback, cornice line, and 4-story rhythm of the block, employs traditional masonry materials, cast stone sill and lintels, recessed punch windows, a precast stone cornice with brick corbelling, and a wood entry door, all detailed to historic precedent. It also conceals all rooftop elements from the public right-of-way and respects the Secretary of Interior standards for new construction in historic districts. Based on the design's compatibility with the district and its careful response to the historic streetscape, we respectfully request approval of Certificate of Appropriateness. I'm happy to answer any questions if the Commission or staff members have.
Thank you, Preetal.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions from commissioners?
Was the spacing, because you have different spacing between the windows, it is symmetrical, but it's not uniform. Is that dictated by the layout of the units inside?
Yes. So we've gone back and forth with the window spacings. Initially, the building was designed to have 2nd, 3rd, 4th floors aligned, uniformly spaced. We had the renderings done, but when we had an internal staff meeting, it was suggested this entry door, which is the second means of egress, we had to leave at least 12 inches there so that the brick can turn around. And that actually dictated, that pushed the 1st floor windows. And due to the second means of egress gate, as well as how wide the front entry door with the side light is, and there is a sprinkler connection. If you see the plan on the 1st floor, there is a sprinkler connection that has to be above the design flood elevation. So the windows actually, the upstairs window are flexible. They can be adjusted, but the intention was to somehow align the 1st floor also with the upper floor windows.
Okay. Can we see the front facade one more time?
Yes.
I'm not sure I'm understanding it. It's not, the 1st floor is not aligned with the other floors.
Yeah, right now it's little closely aligned. Initially it was like way off.
Okay. I mean, I understand why the first floor can't be the same, but personally, I would probably like to see uniform spacing.
Okay.
It just makes me a little dizzy to look at it otherwise.
No, I agree. On the second, third, and fourth floors, if the spacing between the windows were uniform, that would be preferable. It
Sure.
seems clear that something is happening at the first floor that might not make that possible, and it'll have to be its own thing. But the 2'2" and the 1'2" and the 2'2", I just don't think it makes sense. It almost looks like a mistake, except that it's too much spaced, so I know that it's not. But I think equal spacing between the windows would be preferable.
Sure.
And I suspect a fellow commissioner would weigh in on this, but something about that door the main entrance doesn't look quite right. Maybe it's because it's got the four, is that a simulated divided light on the door, that main panel? Something about it just doesn't sit right for me. Is there something that would be more appropriate, like maybe a single pane would look better?
So is it this one?
The main entrance door, where it's divided into 4 panels.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't look like what I'm accustomed to seeing. I don't know. Does it pass muster for everyone else?
I see what you mean. I mean, I think with the other, with all the windows being 2/2 and that being a 4, it seems like it should maybe just be the same as the 2/2 windows at least.
Sure.
It feels a little busy to me, perhaps.
Or a single. Like one
Or
vertical, one
bring the
thinner.
glass lights to the lower half of the door as well. It seems like it's not quite one or the other.
Rachel, that's something you can do, right?
Yes.
My last comment, it may have to do with the rendering, but the cornice, I think it was double soldier course.
Yes.
I'm not sure if the rendering is doing it justice. Okay, there we go.
Well, my comment was going to be, I think the double soldier course is maybe a little odd to see. I don't know if you have any precedent or examples of like a double soldier course, but maybe a simple singular soldier course would be better, or maybe something that differentiates the cornice. It gives a little more depth as well, I think would be good. I think it's just needs a little more something up at the top there to kind of cap off the building. And I think it's maybe a little odd that you have the lintels that are cast stone, I believe, and the sills, and then there's nowhere else that there's brick corbelling on the building up to the cornice. Like I think often I'd expect there to be corbelling elsewhere on the building, and then it just kind of goes to this cornice that's corbelled brick. So I'm thinking, with the cast stone sills and lintels, and then it goes to this brick corbelling. It just seems a little odd to me. And I think we have done some brick corbelled cornices, but it just seems like kind of odd that the buildings, it's just kind of like thrown on there at the top without any other brick corbelling on the building.
Well, I could pick up on that. I do want to say I really appreciated your description of the windows being recessed, the width of the brick,
Yes.
especially since that is the case on 24 Bright Street as well. I do think your rendering doesn't show that. Your rendering shows the
Yes.
jambs of the windows proud of the brick.
Yeah.
So I think your attention to the brick is great, and I would be interested in seeing the development of that brick cornice with a little bit more shadow and feeling like it's not quite so out of nowhere. The other thing about the brick, and particularly of the adjacent building of 24 Bright Street, is that the brick coursing is actually not how you've rendered it. If you actually look at a photograph of it, it has the traditional sort of common bond where every 7 or 8 courses, it's a header course. And I think just having that additional kind of coursing type variation lends the brick material, again, just another level of texture, another level of richness. So I think if you could bring your sensitivity to that brick white, to the overall composition and use of the brick throughout the facade, I think that would really help. I would also say that I'm looking at your cast stone samples,
Yes.
and there seems to be much less contrast between the brick color and the cast stone colors that you've picked than what you're representing in the rendering. My own personal preference, and I'd be happy to debate it, is I would prefer a little bit more contrast. Typically, we would see, the headers and sills,
Much
more
darker?
like that, darker.
Yeah.
Or go the other way. Maybe it's all soldier courses of I don't know, but
Sure.
But it feels slightly unintentional. And just finally, I just want to return to this question of the first story window. Why does I understand that sprinkler closet needing to be on that floor, but why does it need to extend to the facade wall?
Because the brown line is where the design flood elevation is. The sprinkler connection has to happen above the design flood elevation, and that's where the first floor starts. So
Couldn't that? So is there a pipe that we're not seeing, or?
it's a pipe that is not included in the rendering.
It seems to me that if you can manage to sneak that connection in below the sill of the window.
Been higher up than it is, you're saying?
No.
Yeah.
I guess I'm saying is somewhere between the top of the water table but below, there, and sneak it in at the floor, or just, or I don't know how.
Yes.
But if you could push back that sprinkler closet enough so that you could bring the window to align to the upper stories, I'm sure it'll look funny in plan.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not going to really comment on. It's your job. You figure it out. But it seems to me that there is a feasible way to push those windows to align with the windows above, with a little creativity. So yeah, I would just I'll stop there.
So on the sheet, I think it's the same one you have. The one I'm looking at, A500. The brick that you have is where is that? I just lost it. Oh yeah, the modular red smooth veneer with framing. Is that what was the sample that was given to us?
Yeah.
This doesn't look red.
Yeah. That's what? Is it?
More brownish.
This is that.
It's a different manufacturer.
Gotcha.
It's not Belden.
Yeah.
So that is what's proposed then? Is that, or what's in the drawing?
What's on the drawing?
Okay, so that's
so
not
the cast stone is what
okay.
we
And so
have the samples.
so this is a modular red smooth brick. And veneer with framing? What exactly does that mean?
So the brick facade would have framing inside. So if you see, it's the framing here.
So is it on top of CMU, or is that?
No, it's the solid brick with framing inside, because the brick is only outside. The interior is going to have a smooth facade. Smooth surface.
And what kind? As in like.
As a 2 by 4, 2 by 6
Okay.
framing, so that we can get a depth of window. because we want to step the windows with a 1 full brick white and create a shadow line, and that's where the windows would be on the 2x6 framing.
Okay, and
It's a rain screen, right? It's a typical brick rain
Yes,
screen.
yes.
So what you're saying is you're using a full brick,
Correct.
not a veneer brick
No,
like that, a full brick
A full brick,
on a wood frame.
correct.
Okay, thank you. And just one other question, like in the rendering on A600, the way it's rendered shows the brick, I think, continuing back on that side elevation, but in the side elevation, I think the brick wraps, but not maybe as far as it's shown in the rendering.
Yes.
So I think it would be important to have it wrap as far as you can see it. I think usually we often ask for like 10 feet or so. So I would say that at least that side elevation should extend back at least 10 feet or so.
You would propose 12 inches?
Yes.
Yeah, I think usually we ask for 10 feet so that we can see anything that we can see will be brick. And my last comment. Actually, I have two questions. One is I think the rear elevation. I'd like to see more spacing, and I know it's not visible from anywhere, but I do think that having windows further away from those doors would be better, to not have such a large expanse of stucco on the sides, to maybe push that window out closer to the edge, maybe a little more reflecting what's going on the front of the building. And then this is a question, maybe if you can't answer, it's also a question. We see a lot of these egress passageways. What drives that?
Building code.
Is it the number of units?
Yes, it's the number of units and number of stories.
And number of stories.
So
yeah, 'cause-
more than 2 units needs a second means of egress from rear yard.
So that's why we didn't
It's-
see it on Cole Street.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, and it was in the new building 2023, I think, when they updated all of the fire stuff in the building code. In my mind, this is going to be like a very obvious marker for when a building was built downtown.
It's also, when you see detached buildings, you don't need it because the side just, as long as you have 3 feet, just becomes the passage. But when you have attached buildings, this is what we're dealing with.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments?
I just want to add on to the Robert's comment about the cornice. I feel like it's lacking something. And when I first saw the rendering, the thing for me that was lacking was sort of, it didn't really have a terminating feel because the buildings to either side have these sort of very dark and more heavy looking cornices. So maybe it's a solution with more depth or different brickwork, but maybe also it could consider the cast stone, just so that it feels more like a traditional cornice, but in a modern way.
Sure.
If any other comments? Okay. I think it would probably be best if we carried this application.
Yeah, I agree. If it's okay, just because I have Carolyn here, I would like to
Oh,
have
yeah.
her present with respect to, again, obviously the context and the variance that we're seeking.
I think that's fine. For the record, again, Carolyn has previously presented in front of this board and has been qualified as an expert in the field of planning.
Good evening, again. Again, I'm here really talking more about the bulk of the building and some of the planning aspects of it that relate to the bulk of it. And we're, again, seeing this situation where we have a vacant lot that is in the flood zone. And so that has really been driving a lot of the design and a lot of the height issues for this building. Where, again, we're asking, and we will be going to the board, to the zoning board, right? Planning board for this one, for that additional couple of feet of height. And again, it really is driven by this need that we have to get the building up out of the flood zone and to be elevated. I will say that this one, there is a little bit more context that does allow and allow this one to be a little more I would say that the context is a little easier in this case because the buildings next to us has already those elevated stoop. So we really can sort of match that. But whereas that building has probably a basement or a cellar that is occupied and is used, our building really doesn't. We have a cellar just for storage, and then the vast majority of it is a crawl space. So again, we're seeing really that fourth story, that fourth residential floor is elevated up out of the floodplain, which leads to the fact that it's taller than its adjacent buildings. But again, we're in between the I guess it's five. Yeah. It is 5 stories. The 5-story building. On the one side, and then the sort of 3.5 on the other. And so we do sort of create that stepped character, and then overall the block itself you do see it's not consistent. So there is sort of up and down. So we really do see a lot of the context here to support that additional height. And again, we've tried really hard with this building to provide that context. So, the water table has tried to be consistent between this building and the adjacent building. So again, creating that consistency and continuity, trying to make sure that the windows match the best that they can in terms of the levels at which they're at, and then again trying to find some more rhythm, the similar rhythm. So I do think that this again meets those standards for the new construction within the historical design guidelines. Again, we're not replicating a historic older building that was here, but again trying to work within the context. It is compatible with the height. Providing that step between the two heights on either side. Again, the width is consistent in terms of, this is it's a 25-foot wide lot, so it is consistent in that. And then again, the various design materials and the way that the building has been put together is again trying to meet that historic design context and the historic design styles. So again, I think it meets all of those standards.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Great. Any questions for Carolyn? Great, thanks. All right. The next HPC meeting is June 15th. Do you guys want to carry to that or to a date uncertain?
That works. The June 14th or 15th?
That's a great question. Because I said it before, I don't want to say it. 15th.
15th. I could have sworn you said 14th to the last guys.
If
but-
we're having an HPC meeting on a Monday, Sunday, something very bad has
all right,
happened.
that works for me. I guess just before we do that, the only thing I would ask is obviously, and I wrote down all the comments and we intend to address them and hopefully come back and make everyone feel that they've been addressed. But in terms of the variance that we're seeking, obviously for that additional feet, I guess I just want to make sure that the board understands it so that I don't have to have Carolyn come back and speak to the relief aspect again.
I didn't hear anyone object to the height of the building. I heard the argument of the step down kind of aesthetic. I personally find that persuasive, and I think that we've really focused our review on just tweaking and clarifying some of the design elements to get the building where it needs to be, but it's not that far off as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, thank you.
All right. With that said, does anyone want to make a motion to carry this application to the regularly scheduled meeting of June 15th?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. See
Thank you,
guys
everyone.
then.
See you then.
All right, Corey, if you would like to call the next case.
Yep. That's going to be case number H-24-0171. Applicant Stephen Joseph on behalf of 6 Gifford LLC owner. The address is 577 Bergen Avenue, also known as 6 Gifford Avenue. The block is 17801, lot 36, zone R3, West Bergen, East Lincoln Park Historic District. Certificate of appropriateness for the proposed subdivision of Lot 36 into 2 lots and the rehabilitation of the existing altered contributing to and 1/2 story, 4-bay, colonial revival style brick dwelling built circa 1915 in the West Bergen, East Lincoln Park Historic District. Recommendation to the Jersey City Planning Board.
Good evening. I hate to do this to you, but I'd like to also ask that you call the next case as well. I think it makes sense to kind of present these in context, and just seeing what time it is, I don't think anyone expects us to finish tonight. So just kind of...
Can we do that with the subdivision?
I think if we're not going to vote on anything tonight, we can show the context of everything that's happening, so it's on the record for both applications, and then come back at the next meeting and then move forward with the subdivision.
I defer to you as how you want to present your
Okay.
presentation, but I do think that you need to focus on each application when you're deciding upon that application.
Cool. All right, then Corey, you want to read the next one?
Okay. Case number H-24-0172. Applicant Stephen Joseph on behalf of 6 Gifford LLC owner, address 577 Bergen Avenue, aka 6 Gifford Avenue, block 17801, lot 36, zone R3, West Bergen, East Lincoln Park Historic District. Certificate of appropriateness for the proposed construction of a new 4-story, 4-unit residential building and associated site work in the West Bergen, East Lincoln Park Historic District. Recommendation to the Jersey City Planning Board.
Great. Thank you so much. So good evening, Stephen Joseph for the applicant. What's going on here is procedurally there's 3 things really happening. There's a subdivision. That subdivision creates 2 new lots. On the application that the subdivision is attached to, we have an existing building that's being renovated and converted into a multifamily dwelling. Then the next natural question is what's happening with the rest of the lot, the empty land that's being subdivided off. And on that parcel, we're constructing a 4-story multifamily dwelling. So what I think we're gonna do this evening is we're gonna walk you through the subdivision. We're gonna walk you through generally the restoration of the building. And then we want to show you what we're proposing for the new construction piece of it, and hopefully get some feedback. So when we come back next time, we can incorporate some of those comments. So let's get Ahmed sworn in.
Sorry, but can I ask a clarifying question to staff and council? When we provide feedback, should we group our comments per application, or does it matter?
In this case, if they're just comments back, I don't necessarily think it matters. I think so for what it's worth, the concern here is that, right, as Stephen said, you have the one building, it's one lot right now, you have the rehab of it and the subdivision, right? We don't want to get ahead of ourselves by saying, oh, all of the new construction looks good, and then there be a problem with the proposed subdivision, right? So in this case, I think it's okay if you're giving comments kind of interchangeably between the two, and the distinction will come when we're voting.
Thank you.
And I think the challenge will be you can't use the proposed work to judge the appropriateness of the existing work, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I don't think we're worried about that. I think if anything it would be the other way around, right? I think naturally the question would be, what are you proposing on the vacant land for the other part of the subdivision?
Okay.
Would you raise your hand?
I do.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth?
I do. Sure, it's Ahmed Emara, Ahmed, last name Emara.
Staff notes that Mr. Amara has previously presented in front of this board and has been previously qualified as an expert in the field of architecture.
Good evening. So as Stephen was saying, there's one lot right now with one existing building on it, which is what's being shown on the screen right now. I'm going to zoom in just so we can all see that. This is the corner of Gifford Ave and Bergen Avenue. The existing building is right here, and the darker line is the entire property. The proposed subdivision is this line right here, which says I'm gonna just. This is the proposed subdivision line, which splits this one lot into two separate lots now. I'll move on to the existing building unless anybody has a question on the subdivision. It's pretty straightforward. It's again, just to be clear, it's the L shape here, and this line here that's being added separates them into two lots.
This might be part of what you're going to show, but do you have photos of the existing conditions of that part of the lot that's going to be subdivided off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. So I'll start with the.
But I have a question about the subdivision.
Sure.
If this were to be recommended for subdivision,
yes.
Excuse me, will the remaining corner lot be conforming with zoning, or will it? Are there variances required once this is subdivided?
There are no variances associated with the subdivision itself. The building has variance for parking associated with.
Right,
the
I'm asking
proposed
about
use.
the corner lot that's there and that will be remaining even if it's smaller. So the larger of the lots will be conforming. We're not taking it out of conformance if this subdivision goes through.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is lot 36. So I'm gonna just zoom in on this information just to be very clear. But yes, the required is 2,000 square feet, and the subdivided lot would be 7,290 square feet. And then the existing lot, that's the corner lot, would be 3,346. So we would still be above the minimum lot areas. So yes, everything would be conforming. This is the 577 Bergen Avenue, Jersey City, which is the rehabilitation of the existing building. Right here is the existing building, which is the corner again of Gifford and Bergen Avenue. It's a 3-story building with a basement. The area along Bergen Ave has a 1-story building with an existing roof deck right now. The existing cellar right now is being used for storage and mechanical areas such as the water heaters. There's not really any use of the building right now because it's been vacant for quite some time, over 3 years. But it's in the condition on the outside is as seen in the picture. That hasn't really changed much, but the inside is just basically been unmaintained. So that would need a lot of work on the inside. The existing floor plan is right here for the basement and the demo. The demo of the existing basement is very limited to a few walls and doors such as here, and then removing of the existing utility water heaters and coolers. The proposed cellar has the trash area and the garbage area right here, has storage for the proposed 7 units in the building, and the bike storage along with the electrical and fire alarm rooms. In the front left area, all the water heaters are now being placed here, and again, 7 water heaters for the 7 units that are being proposed. First floor is the existing first floor is being demolished on the inside most of the walls, with the exception of a couple of existing walls. The outside remains the same, unchanged, with the exception of the rear wall here. There is a ramp that's existing that's being removed, and then a window here that's going to close, and I'll show that in the elevations in a second. Proposed first floor is again reusing the existing walls, existing perimeter exterior walls. Nothing is changing there. I'm going to zoom in just to make this very clear. There are 2 units on the ground floor that are 2 1-bedrooms on the ground floor and a studio. The unit 101 is entered from the staircase right here. We have the living and dining on this side and the bedroom on this side with a bathroom in the back. The corner unit is a 1-bedroom. This is unit 103 with all the facilities towards the back, and then the front has the bedroom and the living space. The studio has an entrance directly from the hallway from the rear, and from the lobby that's coming from the front, which is on Gifford Ave. The second floor, once again, the exterior remains the same. There's no demo to the exterior of the building. The interior of the building is largely a gut demolition, with the exception of some of the bearing walls that remain in place. And then the proposed second floor, and again, just zooming in to make sure, are the 2 units, which again, it's a similar layout to what's below, a 1-bedroom with the corner living area and the bedroom in the front. And the second unit is a 2-bedroom. The 2 bedrooms are in the back, one of them being a master bedroom, and the living area and the kitchen area in the front facing Gifford. So in terms of the changes to the building, so far, again, it's all interior. The exterior remains the same, and I'll talk about the elevations once we get there. The third floor, or the attic floor, I should say, is being largely demolished to be open and then reconfigured with the proposed units into a studio and a 1-bedroom. And the studio and the bedroom, you can see them being laid out here. This is a larger unit than the other units below. So this is about 993 square feet with a large living space in the front, an office den space, and then a master bedroom. And then the studio is laid out in the back. Any questions on the floor plans? So this is the existing condition of the facade right now. The brick, as you've seen, was in good condition. It just needs some repointing and cleaning. But the roofs do need to be replaced, and some of the windows are in very bad condition that needs to be replaced as well. And I'll go to these conditions here with pictures of every condition. So in the front, we are replacing the windows with windows that fit in the same rough opening. No changes to the opening, no changes to the brick detailing around the window, around the windows, the existing windows. The brick here is labeled to be cleaned and repointed as needed. The entrance will be, this is going to be the biggest change here, which is the entrance has to be replacing the cladding for the doors, replacing the cladding around the door here. The stained glass is remaining, and the steps are being replaced. I want to show these images just to see the door condition right now. The windows, these are the windows that we're talking about that needs to be replaced. And then the entrance, the materials around the entrance here are also being replaced. And then this is the condition of the stair in the back with the door. This is the entrance of the building from the back. These are all the metal grates that have to be replaced also in the back. The door and the entrance again, close up. This is the 1-story part of the building that's facing Bergen Ave with the roof deck on top of it. And it's also a landing for the egress stairs.
I'm sorry to interrupt your presentation, but so this was built in around 1915? Is this, or am I looking at the wrong thing?
The existing building?
Yes.
I have to
yes,
confirm. Yes.
1915.
Do we have any historic photos?
We don't have a 1938 tax card photo for this property.
Yeah.
And the applicant, you don't have any kind of materials? Okay. That was all I wanted to clarify.
Yes,
Thank you.
no problem. I will continue. So this is the existing side of the building. I was just showing the 1-story in the image before with the existing stair coming down to the deck. And then this is the staircase on Bergen Avenue as an egress stair from the 3rd floor, from the attic floor. This again remains largely the same. We're not changing much here. I want to just point out here something very specific. This here, because we spoke to staff about this, and I want to make sure that this is mentioned. This is a large opening in the back right now. And that opening here is going to remain, and it's going to be cleaned and repaired, because this is an opening that becomes now part of the rear entrance of the building. And I can probably just go back to the plan again, because I mentioned it in plan, but I know it needs to be seen in elevation. Also, this is the opening right here. So is the ramp coming up. This is more of a vestibule. This is an opening right here between these two lines. It's an existing opening. That opening is right now in very bad condition. That has to be just repaired, cleaned, and then it's going to stay an opening as is. And I believe we have pictures of those two. I'm just going to, right here, this area. So this ramp is being replaced with a concrete ramp. These are the other two facades, the west elevation and the east elevation. These are existing elevations. Again, this is the one facing Bergen Ave, and this is the one facing the subdivided lot. It's mostly, once again, it's mostly all cleaning of the brick and replacing of the windows. No major changes are happening to the facade or openings or anything like that. The exterior of the building is, we're trying to maintain it as much as possible. So if we have to replace something, we're replacing it, we're cleaning it, and repointing the brick as needed.
Sorry, just while you're on.
Yes, of course.
Just while you're on that slide,
Yeah,
can
sure.
you zoom in on the photos that show the painted portion? Is that just painted brickwork, or is that an infill of some kind, like that used to be a porch?
I'm sorry, you're talking about this part, or should I
Yeah,
go
the
down?
painted mural, is that just brickwork
No, it's
behind
just
there?
brick behind it that's
Okay.
painted on it, yeah.
Thanks.
Of course. These are the windows that we are replacing it with. These are wood windows that would take place of the existing windows right now. I'm going to just quickly show sections just to talk back again about the cellar, and then we have the 3 floors with the existing spaces on the attic being replaced with units. These are the brick details that are existing today. We're showing these for basically just to clarify that nothing is being changed, but the window that's being replaced is going to stay in place, is going to use the same rough opening, use the same row lock, and the same soldier course on top. And that's pretty much the the extent of this approach to this rehab of the existing building on site. Unless you have any other questions, I'm going to go to the proposed portion of the project.
I just have a quick question for staff. Just on this scope of work on this existing building, what are we actually voting on besides the subdivision? Is any of this, or is all this work staff level?
Yeah, if this was a separate application, this would be a staff level approval, but because it's with the subdivision, it all has to come here.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just dependent on how the applicant wanted to do it. So they decided to do it all together, and yeah.
Michael, I have a question about that then.
Of course.
Are the light fixtures that are all around the first floor of the building part of a staff level approval?
The proposed light fixtures on the front and the rear?
There's light fixtures, apparently, it looks like light fixtures proposed like around the building at the first floor? These little
Yes.
squares?
Yes.
Is that something that we need to be talking about?
Those would not be a staff level approval.
Okay, I didn't think so. Thanks.
And those also show on the civil plans now too. The 6 Gifford project is the subdivided lot, so the differentiation is the corner lot is 577 Bergen Ave, and the newly created lot through the subdivision is 6 Gifford. And 6 Gifford is a conforming lot with, I'm just going to go quickly through this. The lot area required is 2,000. The proposed is 3346, so there's no change there. The lot width 20 is required, 25 is proposed. The lot depth, there is no requirement, and 131 is existing, and that's what's being proposed. The density maximum is 4 for the lot, and what's proposed are 4 units. side yard, we have one side yard that's against the existing building and another side yard against the neighbor, and that one is 3 feet 3.14 feet proposed, while 3 is required, and lot coverage of 80% is permitted, and 63.2 is proposed, while previously it was 87.8. There is a fence around the rear of the property, which I'll talk about right now, and there's no parking spaces required and none is proposed. And the landscaping in the front yard, 60% of the yard is required to be landscaped and 65.7 is proposed. I'm going to go to the architecture set. I was just showing the civil before. So this is the property right here that we are mentioning, because there was a question about that before, and I have another picture of that too. But this is the area right here where the proposed building would be. And I'm going to go through the site plan. So the site plan, we have this jog in the property line on the left side here of the building, and the building basically follows that jog. This is the setback here that we mentioned as 3.14, and this is the egress path from the rear yard to the front. I'm just going to make sure that this is clear. The property line on the right side is being built up to, so there is 0 setback on the right side here towards the existing building, which is here. I'm just going to zoom in on this part. So the existing 3-story building is here, and the building is being built up to the property line here. And on the left side, there's a 3-foot setback being left, or 3.14 foot setback being left for egress requirements, and also for the existing windows on the adjacent building. There is a cellar proposed for the building. The cellar is mainly for storage and utilities. The ground floor, this is the main entrance in the building right here. You enter into a vestibule. After that, you come into the staircase of the building where you can enter into the first unit. The first unit is a 3-bedroom unit on the ground floor with a large living space in the front facing the street. As you go up the stairs, the second unit is on the second floor. Again, 3-bedroom, living and dining and kitchen space is in the front. The third floor is split into 2 units. From the staircase, you can enter to the back or to the front. In the front, you walk into this unit, which has its living and dining kitchen space on the ground floor with an internal stair within the unit to go up to the 4th floor. From the rear, it's the same thing. So there are duplexes. So we have 2 duplexes, one in the front, one in the back. And as you go up from within, you go to the 4th floor. The 4th floor has 2 units, has the front and back again, with 3 bedrooms for each. The same internal stair take you up all the way to the bulkhead, where 2 private patios are being proposed on the roof deck of the building. This is the sections of the building. The height is in conformity. We're at 41 feet, while 42 is permitted. And this is another section of the building showing the bulkhead that I just mentioned. And the front is one part of the Unit 4 deck, and the rear is the Unit 3 deck. This is a block elevation of the street. This is the existing condition as is, and this is the proposed condition. The facade of the building is right here. Let me just zoom in. So we're proposing this simple brick and metal panel facade that has the spirit of the historic structures around it. So I want to mention that the buildings right to the left of the I'm going to go back for just to be clear here.
Yeah, so this is important
Yeah.
to note that obviously the buildings directly adjacent to this building, if you're looking at this to the
Right.
left, are much shorter. They're
Yes.
2.5, 1.5
They're-
story
yeah,
buildings. Those are non-contributing to the district. So the buildings that we looked to when designing this were the taller buildings, the multifamily apartment buildings across the street and down the
And also down the block, yeah. And this is important to mention, and I'll have those shown in a second. As we go through this, this is a brick facade with several different articulation. We have this size of the window is also taken from the context, which I'll show in a few. And we have a stack bond brick running between the windows here, and this is set back within a larger running bond opening of brick right here. And then on top of the all the windows is a soldier course running across the whole facade, and then also at the first floor or the beginning of the second floor, there's another one to separate the base of the building from what's above, with a dark gray metal panel cornice on top of the building right here. The rear of the building is a one second. The rear building is a much simpler facade with stucco and siding on where the balconies are, and then the stucco is simple, just wraps the rear of the building right here. This is the east elevation with the brick wrapping the brick wrapping back, I believe 10 feet, and then there's the rest of the facade is being stuccoed along with the bulkhead. And this is the west elevation with the brick wrapping on this side is 3 feet, and then there's also stucco, and then the siding comes back and wraps this section. This is the area where the building jogs. So the jog is the jog has the continuation of the cement board or siding, and then there's the stucco portion. I do have some close-ups of the of the facade. This is the entrance condition. And this is a typical of the second and the third floor above, where the stack bond right here and the running bond of the windows, and then the larger glass panels with the metal panel. We do have the details here. It's a typical, I heard the discussion before. Just to clarify, brick, if it's not structural, it's veneer, whether it's face or full. So it could be a full brick and still veneer. And I think that's what the other architect was also talking about. I think the question specifically before was, how are you holding it up? And I think the answer was steel lintel. That's what the detail was showing. It's the same condition here. It's steel lintel above the ground floor. When it goes to the ground floor, it's going to go down to a CMU foundation. Above that, we do have the cornice of the building, which is shown right here. So this is the soldier course that separates the fourth floor from the parapet above, and then we do have this detail here for the metal cornice, which cuts back, mimics what stone would do, but it's done in metal panel. This is a visual of how the building fits on the block right here.
So can we zoom in on that actually, just to show the...
Of course. So these are the contributed building, and then these here and also across the street, and I'll show that in a second as well. And this is that condition we're talking about. This is the corner, the one-story structure that's on side of the existing building, and this is the proposed 4 stories. Again, this is part of the contributing buildings to the district, right here. So I'm going to start with this one because it's easier. So this is the sightline diagram for the bulkhead from across the street on Gifford Ave, looking directly at the building, taken at 6 feet. And this is the same diagram, but looking now across Bergen Avenue, above the existing building, and it just you see basically this part here of the bulkhead. And there was again a question about where that is exactly, and just to be very clear, this is where that building sits, right here. we do also have renderings. These are
So we
There's
have to
4.
enter this. There's 4 of them. Enter this as A1, I guess. 4 pages of renderings prepared by the architect.
And we're going to mark that for H-24-172.
Got it.
So this is the brick facade we're talking about. This is where the 10 feet wraps on the one side here. The other side is only 3 feet. This is the windows we're talking about, and then this is the stack bond right here of the windows and the running bond. This is the rear of the building, the siding, and then the stucco at the bottom and the side. This is looking at from top. We do have a 10-foot setback also for the roof deck, so it doesn't come out to the parapet, and we have a railing that separates that. This is also the entrance here will be paved or done with stone pavers, and the greenery here with the landscape requirement as mentioned before. And this is a night shot of that brick facade with the metal panel. I do have also brick samples. We did bring 2 because in discussions with staff we had 2 options, and I have both options with me. I'm happy to pass them around.
I got
We're marking these as well.
Coming from my head.
No.
Yeah, we could mark these as A2 if
sure.
we mark the first one as A1 for H-24-0172, and those are the brick samples.
So in discussions with staff preparing for this, we went out into the sites a couple of times, took pictures, touched the brick around the buildings, around the block, and those 2 brick samples were the ones selected. I could go either way because it's the brick across the street and down the street are more similar to the red rock, and then if you go further down, it's the other color, the more orange one. I believe, Michael, you said the red rock one. I think is what you like, the one with more texture and less.
I'd have to look at them
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
It was the darker red color.
the darker
brick
red.
was the one that I was leaning towards.
Yeah.
So does that conclude your?
Yeah.
It does, yes.
So I mean, obviously, it's a very visible building. I think it's a unique location and situation, and we tried to do something probably a little bit different than what you're used to seeing here. Keep in mind it is in a R3 zone, so it's a mid-rise zone. On lots of 6,000 square feet, 8 stories would be permitted, and that's kind of what you see surrounding the property with all the contributing buildings. But again, the non-contributing buildings are very tiny in the context of the block.
So I have actually a parallel set of comments for both sides of the subdivision line, which is in both applications, I would like to hear since this is in the spirit of comments to help you kind of bring this back. I would like to hear more from you, from the applicant, on the whys, like the theory of the case for both the restoration of the existing building and the sort of the story you're trying to tell with the new design. On the existing building, especially because there isn't a tax card photo, it would help us evaluate the success of your proposal if you could show us, like, well, here are some comparable buildings of the time, and here's what they look like, and here's what we think is not original and therefore needs to be replaced, and here's what we think is really important to preserve. We're going to have our opinions too, of course, but it would just help me. It would just help me to have something that you can articulate.
I understand.
that helps me evaluate it. And then secondly, on the new design as well, I celebrate and love supporting contemporary designs for new construction. But the key is not whether or not it's mimicking old or whether it's contemporary looking. It's whether it's appropriate. And again, along that line, I would like to hear from you, sort of, this glass and metal L, like why. What are the datums you're trying to echo? What are the forms in the surrounding? Even in the brick, rather than saying you could go either way and this recalls that and that recalls that, well, show us the pictures of what buildings they recall, where they are, and tell us what you would like to, advocate for. And I think then we could have, a more substantive back and forth conversation on that. I also think there's some. I saw a lot of strange numbers on those two sets of front cover sheet data, where I don't know. I think it's not necessarily productive to go through line by line, but my eyebrows shot up on a number of those lines. I think they're worth triple checking on both of those. There were a bunch of numbers that didn't make sense.
Okay, sure.
I would like to add, especially for the new construction, for a building this contemporarily designed in a historic district, I'm not partial to it, and I would need, as Commissioner was saying, some explanation on the theory of how it contributes to the district other than being the same height and size as the buildings across the street rather than not the ones next to it.
Sorry. Ladies first.
I know the neighborhood well, so I'm commending you for restoring the mansion that's
The
there.
existing one, right? Yeah.
It has been a pretty eyesore for the last couple of years just because it's not maintained. It's a lot of garbage, and whoever is the owner is like. But I also think that the scale of the new building, it's really out of scale, and even though the buildings next to it from the 60s, I believe, they're non-contributing, but they're already also, could be considered historic now. They're over 50 years old. And something that would speak more to that scale is, I think, more appropriate. Also, that is a really small lot, that subdivided lot. And then when you build that high, it just appears way higher. And so you have the 60s building on the one side, you have the 1915 contributing building on the other side, and then I believe the apartment building that's across, is that contributing on Gifford?
Yeah.
Those are contributing.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're from the 1920s, I believe.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't fit into this whole area. I mean, it is just out of scale, and I don't think it fits. So, I don't know.
I think my fellow commissioner makes a valid point, and just recalling one of the applications we just heard earlier, I was talking about the step down from what is a relatively new contemporary building, but that building's height and massing seemed appropriate in the context of the neighboring building. And I think this may be the flip side of that coin, that when you're building next to a very diminutive structure, you have to be sensitive to that and the setting. And so I am starting to think differently about it.
Yeah, I want to ask about that. You mentioned the size of the buildings across the street and in the surrounding area. Can we get some information as to how, what is the height of those buildings? How does it fit in that overall
have all of that,
context?
yeah.
That'd be great.
Yes, of course.
I have one, something I would like to hear more about is the choice to, it's a two-part question related. The choice to put the rear yard egress on the west side of the building instead of the east, where it would have a less impact on the corner building, which is really the more prominent historic resource. And also, the choice to use a building typology that typically we see like in districts with attached housing, and choosing to not attach it to the other attached buildings in the streetscape, right? It's now a freestanding building that looks like it's missing. It's, normally you see them attached to other buildings. So these two things are related, but I'm interested in understanding why the egress is in between the buildings instead of building up next to them.
Yeah, I agree. And Nick, this is that's what maybe kind of articulates what I was thinking too. This is taking the form of a row house without actually being a row house. I think this would be a great building downtown, and I think we just need to see more context of this block. And like I think we just send like one photo on A903. We see those buildings across the street, but it's kind of just like this really, they're secondary because it's the photo of the existing building. So I think you want to show us the apartment buildings across the street and in the surrounding context, but also remember that those are, in this corner of the district, there are a lot of those 1920s apartment buildings, but they're, the typology of this district is really varied with a lot of like detached frame houses, which could be that could be a design that you go with, but this is more of kind of like a row house, but it's a detached building. So I think it just needs a little more context and a narrative so we can understand it. And the other comment I had was about the amount of stucco. You have like some dark metal paneling and then like this really bright white stucco, which kind of seems incongruous. So I would say maybe go with more of the metal panels and with the stucco.
Okay.
And lastly, just on the subdivision itself, I don't think I have an issue with the subdivision either, but I am also just more curious about, you talked about we don't have a tax card on this building or a tax photo, but it doesn't seem like this portion of the lot was ever was it ever like part of a whole of a very important part of this building that you're rehabbing? Like, was it part of a landscaped area, or right now it seems like it may be a parking area, or
the proposed building, what it's sitting on, okay.
And I don't think I have an issue with the subdivision, but was this ever, I don't know, something that was more important to the yard space of the existing building, the side yard or rear yard, I guess it would be.
Two very minor points. One is I think you had the brick facade wrapping around 10 feet on one side and 3 feet on the other. What was the reason for that?
So the building on the other side is only 3 feet away. And as you turn, the idea basically is that if I turn it even 10 feet, you'll still see the building above it. So we only turned it in just enough so you can avoid it on perspective. But, the idea of turning it in 10 feet wouldn't change what you would see above the 3-story building next to it. Okay. So when we typically turn it 5 or 10 feet, you're doing it so that you can feel that volume continues, basically. But even if I turned it 10 feet, you would still see the stucco above it because it's higher than the buildings next to it.
Okay. And we usually emphasize the need for downcast lighting. I saw on the rendering you had up earlier, it's kind of bidirectional. Is that
Yes. The upper ones were, but we did discuss that, and we would just make them down.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thanks.
Not to cut anybody off, it is 10, so we do need to wrap this up so we can get out of here.
That's why I'm not responding right now.
No,
Trying to let you.
We appreciate your time and allowing us to do an abbreviated presentation here to get some of your initial feedback. We're grateful for the time you gave us.
Okay. Would you guys like to carry to June or carry to a date uncertain?
June, please.
I have to ask. All right. Anyone want to make a motion to carry the application to June?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We will see you guys in June.
That is for both applications. Just to clarify.
All right. We're going to blow through the rest of the agenda here. We do not have an update on 285 Grove Street. Does anyone want to make a motion for 11A in the demolition review to be carried to the June meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
As announced earlier, for the record, 11B in the demolition review, 384 Communipaw Ave has withdrawn their application. We have no update on the tabled demo review cases. We have no resolutions to introduce or discuss or memorialize. We do not need an executive session, and that just leaves us with adjournment.
Motion.
Second.
All right, it is 10:01 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.